A DPIA turns AI privacy risk into practical decisions. In this module, we'll look at GDPR triggers, explore risks such as profiling, sensitive data, and high-risk processing, and then convert findings into mitigation plans, engineering requirements, and compliance approvals. Everything so far has built toward this point: mapping AI systems, tracing data flows, identifying risks, and applying HIPAA and GDPR concepts. Now we'll use that foundation to structure a DPIA for high-risk AI processing. At its core, a DPIA asks, what could this data use do to people, and how do we reduce that risk? With AI, that question is especially important because systems can infer sensitive details, classify people, scale decisions, and make logic harder to see. A DPIA supports accountability before launch and throughout operation. Think of these triggers as an early warning system. If an AI system profiles people, scores them, predicts behavior, or ranks opportunities, a DPIA is likely needed. The same applies to automated decisions affecting access to jobs, credit, services, or rights. Risk increases further with sensitive data, biometrics, health data, children's data, large-scale monitoring, or vulnerable groups. Novel AI can also trigger assessment, because uncertainty itself raises risk. Profiling becomes a DPIA trigger when personal data is used to infer something meaningful about a person, and that inference shapes real outcomes. A risk score, recommendation, or eligibility flag can affect access, price, care, fraud review, or employment. Even with a human in the loop, the review must be real, documented, and capable of changing the result. The DPIA should test fairness, explainability, accuracy, contestability, and discriminatory impact. Removing protected fields from training data does not remove the risk. Models can still learn proxies from location, behavior, language, or purchase history, then predict health, identity, income, or other sensitive traits. For vulnerable groups such as children, patients, employees, migrants, or distressed users, the impact can be greater. The DPIA should examine inputs, features, embeddings, outputs, and downstream decisions for re-identification, proxy discrimination, and unintended sensitive inference. 3 conditions should quickly raise DPIA priority: scale, monitoring, and novelty. Scale means errors or bias can affect many people before they are detected. Monitoring means the system observes behavior over time, often in sensitive contexts such as work, location, biometrics, or user activity. Novel technology adds uncertainty around fairness, explainability, security, and lawful use. The practical task is to document who is affected, how often data is observed, how intrusive the processing is, and where deployment occurs. A practical DPIA is a chain of evidence, not a one-time form. Begin by defining why the AI system exists, what the model does, and how personal data moves through its lifecycle. Then test whether the processing is necessary, proportionate, lawful, transparent, and minimized. From there, identify harms to individuals, assign controls and owners, and decide what risk remains. Approval should also include a review cadence, because AI systems and their impacts change over time. Strong DPIAs make the AI system accountable end-to-end. Start by mapping every data category, not just obvious inputs. Training sets, prompts, outputs, logs, metadata, and derived features. Next, identify every actor touching that data, including controllers, processors, vendors, annotators, model teams, and decision owners. Finally, assign responsibilities clearly. Someone must own risk treatment, monitoring, data subject requests, and approvals. If ownership is vague, risk control will be vague too. Necessity and proportionality create a useful pause before building or deploying AI. Tie the model to a specific, legitimate purpose. Then challenge every data element. Does the system truly need it, or would fewer features, shorter retention, or a simpler method work? If automation is justified, reduce exposure through safeguards such as pseudonymization, aggregation, access controls, and purpose limits. The DPIA should show that privacy risk was designed down, not accepted by default. Consider an AI tool that scores patients for healthcare support services. The DPIA should turn concerns into clear scenarios. A biased score excludes someone, an explanation is too vague to challenge, or sensitive data is reused beyond the original purpose. Each scenario should name the cause, who is affected, the harm, and the controls, owners, and evidence needed to reduce the risk. Risk rating turns DPIA findings into priorities. Estimate likelihood by looking at data exposure, model complexity, access, possible misuse, and whether similar incidents have occurred. Then assess impact, data sensitivity, the importance of the decision, vulnerable groups, and severity of harm. After safeguards are applied, reassess residual risk. If it remains high, escalate, add controls, or seek supervisory authority input before deployment. A DPIA creates value only when findings become controls. Start with each risk scenario, then define the control requirement: encryption, access limits, minimization, retention, consent, bias testing, explainability, or human oversight. Convert that requirement into an engineering or governance task. Assign an owner and due date. Then collect evidence that the control works, validate it, and reassess residual risk. This is how privacy assessment becomes operational accountability. Treat the DPIA as a living control, not just a launch document. Before release, confirm risks, controls, and approvals. When models are retrained, data sources change, vendors shift, or use cases expand, reassess the DPIA. Ownership should be explicit across privacy, security, ML, product, and risk governance. Continue monitoring drift, fairness, access, incidents, complaints, and rights requests. Finally, retain evidence of decisions, approvals, implemented controls, and any accepted residual risk. DPIAs turn GDPR risk into action. For high-risk AI, they identify triggers such as profiling, sensitive data, scale, and novel monitoring, then document purpose, necessity, risks, mitigations, and residual risk. The real value is follow-through. Engineering controls, monitoring, approvals, stronger transparency, and meaningful human review.